DCP Player free. Get it now from digital.net.au.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about 4K for television. And indeed, we have found that the post-production flow is quite dependent on the choice of cameras. But I asked the question, why 4K now? Well, why not? We found that the incremental costs are reasonable. We know that 4K makes great HD pictures. We see that every week now. It's certainly better than film for us right now. It saves us some money on the workflow, and we're seeing really amazing digital negatives come from our productions when they shoot in 4K. The fact that low light level, low exposures don't get blocked up like they would in film has really given us a lot of confidence in the work that's coming off the set. Of course, the real reason behind it is to future-proof the content library. As most of you know, television, we don't make our money back always when it airs on the networks or the cable systems. We make our money back through ancillary distribution and international distribution. So it's important to have a master in the library that has a long life in future. And of course, I want to talk a little bit about what 4K offers in terms of quality. We've heard a lot this morning about HDR and color space and what that means to the viewing experience. So this is a little bit of a graph that shows today on the F65 and the 55, we're capturing the latitude, something like 14 stops with the wide color space, and of course 4K resolution. But you look at the distribution chain, and you look at what's available in display, and we're squeezing that down and compromising the image specifically to less than half of the latitude and a much smaller color space, and of course less spatial resolution. So I think this is what the future is going to offer us, regardless of how it gets into your home. We're looking at an opportunity, probably first in the display area, of expanded dynamic range, wider color space, better resolution, and distribution in some cases is right behind that. That's our goal, and that's the reason it's smart to consider shooting and capturing your content in 4K to begin with. Back in the fall of 2012, Sony came to us and mentioned that they were building cameras that shot 4K, projectors that projected it. They were about to build displays capable of 4K. So they urged us to start looking at creating content in 4K. Our first efforts was a 12-episode series for NBC, and followed on by episodic drama for Showtime, Masters of Sets. Both of those series were shot on the F65. The 55 had not come out yet, but a few months later, we produced pilots of The Blacklist and a drama series for Fox called Rake on the F55. Then last fall, beginning of fall 2013, we started producing these shows in 4K. So we've about to complete 22 episodes of Blacklist. We did 13 of Rake, Michael J. Fox, you can read them. All of this leads up to kind of a list to date of over 120 episodes now have been shot in 4K. About 75% of them were shot on the 55 or the 65. Not all of them have been completed in 4K, but all of them were captured and archived. That amounts to over 600 shooting days in 4K. And we even took the series Breaking Bad, which had been shot on film, and rescanned and remastered that in 4K. Going forward, it looks like we have on the books, we have another season of Masters of Sex that just started production. They decided to continue on the F-65. We have a new series for CBS that just started production. We have an untitled Netflix. I think some of you know that Netflix now requires delivery of original content in 4K. We have a second season of Blacklist committed to shooting in 4K, and we have 2 additional series that we plan to initiate in 4K on the F-55 this summer. So I wanted to go over a production workflow example. I get a lot of questions about how are you doing 4K, how is it working out? So this is an example of what we're doing on the untitled Netflix. If I can see this. We are capturing on F-55, and we're making use of a functionality of the camera where we can actually record 2 files at the same time. So specifically, on the internal recorder of the camera, we're capturing an HD proxy. On the raw recorder, we're capturing 4K on a separate AXS card. The HD proxy is captured on an S/S card. It's loaded into an on-set data manager where copies are made onto a drive. And that drive then is sent to local internet access. This particular show is being shot in Florida. And that material then, the HD proxy, is pushed to us over a Squyres connection where we produce then the dailies. We process it using a standard daily system, in this case an NTI Cortex system. And in this case of this production, the editors are actually residing and based in New York, as are the executive producers. So the show is shot in Florida. It is processed and posted in LA with creative editorial occurring in New York. So after the DNX dailies are created each evening, those are pushed to New York for editorial. In the meantime, the 4K cards are loaded into a separate data wrangler system. The files are maintained on set along with a backup shuttle drive that's maintained offset. And then, as we like to do, is the original camera cards with the original media is sent to LA for downloading and archiving, and ultimately as the source material for the 4K finish. We do 2 processes. We first finish the show in HD normally. That's what's done for Blacklist, and then we go back and do a 4K IMF. For this show, of course, we deliver in 4K, so that will be the final master and probably the first master. So, as a summary to this, we protect for future distribution and display qualities. We found that 4K is not as difficult as one might expect, nor is it as expensive as one might expect. And we produce a very high quality HD release today, and it's way easier than 3D. I've been asked to leave a little time for Q&A, but I would like to comment on a couple of things that came up. Michael mentioned the discussion about vis effects in 4K. One thing we've learned is that a lot of times visual effects shots have a lot of motion blur, a lot of movement in them, so it's not always critically necessary to render out a visual effect as a final in 4K. We found we can normally, using 4K plates or footage, render out a visual effect in 2K and then up-res them. And with the oversampled original capture, this is done pretty much seamlessly and inserted into the final 4K master. So that works out pretty well. And that's a quick case study of 4K for television production.